used the words ethical and non-monogamy, like they were Febreze for a stale apartment. Not because I want to cheat, I told Ben, hands wrapped around a mug I didn't need. I just think we're stuck. Everyone's doing this now. With rules. Like adults. Ben stared at the steam rising from his tea, the way he always does when he's giving me a chance to hear myself. Everyone, he asked. Calm. Warm. Annoyingly reasonable. Okay, not everyone, I said. But some people. And they seem. I searched for a word that would make me sound enlightened instead of restless. Intentional. We'd been together 3 years. We had a lease, a shared Costco card, Sunday grocery runs where he read every label, and I threw flowers in the cart like a raccoon with a credit card. He's the kindest man I've ever dated. He made breakfast on my exam mornings and fell asleep during movies like someone turning off a lamp. I loved him. I was bored. Both things were true, and I wanted the second to be a solvable math problem. Ben took a slow sip. If you're bored with me, he said, we could travel. Learn a new thing. Swap date night for day hikes. Or we could break up. Or, I said brightly, like a game show host opening a curtain, we could try opening. Together. With boundaries. He didn't laugh. He didn't rage. He did the thing good men do. He took me seriously. If we talk about this, he said, we do it properly. Not as a patch. Not as a dare. Therapy reading, rules we both actually agree to. No sulking, no corner cutting. I can do that, I said, relieved that he hadn't just said no and terrified that he hadn't just said no. We did it properly. A therapist with a salt and pepper bob asked us annoying, helpful questions. We read half a book with a neon cover and underlined the same parts. We wrote a document like lawyers. No coworkers, no one in our friend group, condoms always, no overnights, no repeat dates without a check-in, full disclosure up front. Not the morning after, not you'll laugh about this someday. If either of us hated it, we'd stop. Ben added one clause with a pencil. No using this to avoid talking about us. Obviously, I said. I meant it. Kind of. My first date was a trivia night with a bartender named Evan who wore rings and listened well enough that I mistook it for chemistry. I texted Ben on the way home. Nothing happened, fun conversation. And crawled into bed buzzing like I'd had espresso too late. The next morning, Ben made pancakes and asked, how was it? Without a grimace. I kissed his shoulder and felt like an enlightened, modern woman who could have it all with bullet points. His first date was a coffee with a woman from the climbing gym named Mara. She's older, he said like it was a footnote. 42? Divorced. Big reader. Funny. He said funny the way you say competent. It landed differently than it should have. We did the check-ins. We were polite. We were grown-ups, which is to say, we were very skilled at talking around the tumor and measuring our own fevers. On my third date with Evan, I broke a rule. It wasn't sex. It was small and exact and worse. I didn't tell Ben beforehand I was seeing him again. I told myself I was protecting Ben from details he didn't want. The truth was I liked the high of having a secret no one had given me permission to keep. The date was nothing. Cheap wings, loud music, a hand on my knee that felt like a punchline to a joke I'd already heard. In his car he leaned in, and I pictured Ben's careful handwriting under no overnights, and turned my face so Evan's kiss hit my cheek like a stamp. I don't do this, I said, pretending I was a principled person and not a coward who didn't want to pay the actual cost. When I got home, Ben was reading on the couch with a blanket over his legs like an old man, and my heart hurt with love so sudden it made me clumsy. I meant to tell him about the third date. I meant to say, I messed up the process. He looked up, smiled, and said, want tea? And I said yes and put my phone face down and moved the confession to tomorrow. Tomorrow became never. Not because I'm a villain. Because I'm lazy with truth when it would make me look smaller. Ben kept seeing Mara. They didn't rush. Hikes. A museum. A volunteer shift at a weekend book sale because of course those were the dates they chose. He came home smelling like rain and paper, and I asked neutral questions with a voice that sounded like someone else's cheerful sister. She's easy to talk to, he said once. She doesn't try to be interesting. She just is. Something in me bristled. I had been trying very hard to be interesting for a very long time. We lasted 8 weeks in open. It looked respectable on paper. It felt like we were tenants in our own lives. Then I broke the rule that matters. I lied. Not a big lie. A white lie that wanted to be called a compromise. I told Ben I was getting drinks with co-workers. I met Avon. We made out in his car like we were 22 and the night might turn us into different people. It didn't. I went home and showered and got into bed beside the person I said I loved, and slept like a thief. The next morning, Ben put my phone on the counter like it was a fragile exhibit. "You meant to tell me?" he asked. He wasn't holding up screenshots. He wasn't quoting times. He was looking at my face and offering me a chance to be someone I kept failing to become. "I didn't want you to feel weird," I said, because the ugly little truth. I liked having a secret. Came with flames attached. He nodded once. He has this way of nodding that feels like a door closing without a slam. "I can't do this," he said. "Not because you kissed someone. Because you turned rules into decorations." "We can fix it," I said quickly. "No more dates. Close it. I'll block him." He set down a folded piece of paper. His neat handwriting again. A list, like the one you give to movers so your stuff doesn't get lost. "I'm not here to punish you," he said. "I'm here to be honest. 1. We were fine before we did this. Not thrilling. Real. 2. I agreed because you asked and I love you. 3. You love me and you're bored and you think there's a version of love where boredom is proof you're alive. 4. I don't want to live inside your experiment. I'm not a science project," I said, ridiculous and injured. He gave me the softest look. "I know," he said. "That's why I'm not staying." He didn't storm. He didn't perform pain. He arranged his leaving like a decent man, offered to take the smaller bedroom in a short-term sublet, told the landlord we'd break the lease clean, split the deposit, labeled the boxes, forwarded the internet bill to my email, put the spare key on the hook, and sent me a calendar invite for the move-out inspection, so I wouldn't miss it. Dignity looks boring when you want fireworks. He texted me the next week, "I'm going to close things with Mara, too. Not because of you. Because I thought I wanted interesting. Turns out I want solid." I wrote back okay. I had nothing better to say. A month later, I saw them at the farmer's market. I didn't plan it. Cities have a sense of humor. He bought peaches. She wore a striped dress with pockets and a face that looked like sleep. They stood under an awning while it drizzled and talked with their whole attention like people who don't need to audition for each other. He saw me. He raised a hand in a peaceable hey. I walked over with my best version of unbothered and said hi. "This is Mara," he said. "Mara, this is..." "I know," she said, kind. Eep. Her voice wasn't smug. It was spacious. I hated that about her for 5 minutes, and then later, I hated it about myself. We made small talk about flowers. Ben asked if I'd kept the Dutch oven because he'd taught me his bread recipe and he hoped I still used it. I said I did. He smiled like a person handing someone a life jacket from a boat. He isn't getting back on. That night I sat on my couch in our half-empty apartment with the AC too loud, and the plant he bought me drooping like honesty. I wanted to send him a long message that proved I was smart about my feelings. I opened a blank text and wrote 2 words instead. "I'm sorry." I deleted it and wrote, "Thank you for leaving kindly." I deleted that too. He didn't need my epilogue. He had peaches and a woman who didn't perform interesting. You want the messy epiphany? There isn't one. There's me realizing I used open to avoid saying scared. I don't mean open relationships are fake, I mean mine was dishonest. Consent isn't a vibe. It's a calendar, a sentence said out loud. A rule you keep when it's not convenient because that's what a rule is. I wanted to be the kind of woman who could collect stories and come home to safety, like it was a coat I could hang in a closet whenever I got cold. I wanted to be brave without giving anything up. Ben didn't punish me. He didn't try to fix me. He believed me when I said I was bored, and then believed himself when he decided he didn't want to be the man I used to prove I'm alive. He chose someone who likes Sundays and doesn't mind silence and reads real books instead of self-help highlighted into confetti. He chose a life that looks quiet from the outside and probably feels like oxygen. I still go to the market sometimes. I buy flowers badly and put them in a jar and let them drink too much, because I always overwater. I bake bread in the Dutch oven, and try not to send him a picture. My therapist asks what I'm practicing. I tell her, boredom. The good kind. The kind that means you trust the person across from you enough to be uninteresting for an hour, and still be loved after. If you need a scoreboard, he won. Not because he traded me in for someone older. Because he refused to be the lab partner for my pet theory. Because he left without a speech and built a simple life with a woman who doesn't need to be a story to matter. I don't get to hate him for that. I don't even get to resent her pockets. I get to stand in my own kitchen, slice into bread I actually let rise, and admit the thing I tried to rename. I wasn't looking for adventure. I was looking for a way around choosing. And he chose. Quietly. Cleanly. For happiness that doesn't need a hashtag.